In the line of defense of the eastern sea of Jiang, Gukashin Lipton, using his sword, launched a powerful slash towards the sea beast. A slash of energy shot out from his sword, cutting off one of the beast's limbs. It became enraged and with eyes shining with fury. It turned its back on him and began to flee the area. The limb of the sea beast flew through the air, and without wasting another second, it submerged into the water. Gukaishin's attention was fixed on it. He was furious to see that the marine race had such despicable beings as it. The beast had fled after being attacked. He advised the beast not to come out making noise if it did not want to fight. Using his powers, Duan summoned ice over the surface of the sea. He turned towards Gukaishin and with a serious expression said that he had good news. From a Chang they had sent a message. Jiang had managed to contain the horde of beasts, and furthermore, he had discovered that Chen had entered the top 300 in Great Zia's merit ranking. Gukaishin turned around and his eyes widened in surprise, causing his jaw to drop. He could not believe that Chen had managed to enter the merit ranking of Great Zia. Knowing that this was an achievement that not even many great masters could attain throughout their lives. While they were conversing, red energy began to manifest in the sky, their attention fixed on it, realizing that it was the legendary warning signal known as the Tianyuan alert. Gukaishin's eyes filled with fear as he explained that the alert had been created by the human emperor of Great Zia, and that many years had passed since he had last seen one. Don's eyes widened in surprise and terror as when a level 8 or higher enemy appeared somewhere, and there was no expert present to confront it, Tianyuan's alert was activated. The energy began to form a portal, showing the live transmission of the Spider Queen with eyes shining with evil. Gukashin and Don knew this was not good since this monster was the Abyssal Spider Queen. The sea beast, with eyes full of rage, emerged from the water and began to move quickly toward them, ready to attack again. Seeing that it had reappeared, Gukashin turned around, drew his sword, and could not help but feel furious. He decided to take care of the 7th level sea beast himself, asking Duan to go to Jiang and only ensure Jiang's life was saved without directly confronting the Spider Queen. Duan turned around and with a serene expression began to run, promising to do everything possible to protect Jiang. Somewhere else was the defense line of Qianlongguan located in the underground cave. The place was filled with soldiers wearing knight armor. Just then, a powerful portal appeared in front of them, and from within something began to emerge. Upon noticing this, the god of war gave an order: if the 10,000 races of the abyss dared to take a step forward, they would be mercilessly killed. The soldiers began to observe the portal, shouting that Great Shi was powerful. Jiang Xuanji drew his spear, and while his eyes were shining with rage, his body began to release a powerful energy. Someone's voice started sounding, saying that Jiang Xuanji had to die, revealing that the 9 miasma wings was going to cause a great disaster that would destroy the world. In front of him was a giant level 9 demon named Yang. While the demon's eyes were shining with malice, he began to observe Jiang Xuanji, and with a smile mentioned that he knew they had been raising offspring of the 9 miasma wings within the territory of Dejia, totaling tens of millions of insects. Xuanji, who was flying in the air, simply remained silent. Yang asked if humans did not fear that the countless races of the caves would unite to exterminate humans once and for all. Jiang Xuanji's eyes began to shine with rage. He started staring at Yang and questioned whether the grudges among the 10 sallows and abyssal races had been resolved. He knew they would not abandon their hostilities just because of the appearance of a few million insects. He was confident that all they could do was unite to cause a small disturbance. Jiang Xuanji's body became gigantic. With a furious gaze, he placed his hand on Yang's shoulder, raised the spear, and said that the demon race had no right to meddle in human affairs, reminding Yang that last time he had cut him into pieces with his axe, asking if he hadn't learned his lesson. Yang began to observe Jiang Xuanji in silence, not knowing what to say. Just before Xuanji could attack, red energy appeared behind him. His attention was fixed on it, and his eyes widened in surprise, realizing that it was the genuine alert. Jiang drew his spear, and with a wicked smile attacked Swanji, revealing that the 9 miasma wings were nothing compared to them, vowing that today they would completely exterminate it along with the geniuses of Dejia. Luckily, Swanji reacted in time and dodged the attack. Then he grabbed his spear tightly and attacked. Jiang blocked the attack, both began to fight, and Swanji gave the order to the commander of the Blue Dragon camp, Shen Tufei, to go to Jiang to provide support. Tufei started observing Swanji and nodded his head. Yang's eyes began to shine with confidence, and with a smile, he made it clear that the support wouldn't even arrive in time to collect the corpses. The portal grew larger, and from within demons began to emerge, some flying and others wearing hoods while wielding spears as weapons. Yang revealed that today they were going to break through Great Zia's defense line. Swanji's eyes filled with rage. He gripped the spear tightly and with a furious expression told Yang to stop dreaming. Then he gave the order to the human warriors to kill all the demons. At the same time, on Jiang's battlefield was the Spider Queen, who began staring at the cult members and with a piercing gaze asked them one last time if Jai Lingqiu had been defeated, making it clear that if he arrived before she died, she would exterminate the entire cult of the ancient god. Feeling her gaze, they began to feel fear, but one of them told her not to worry since both Monk Qingling and Jai Lingqiu had gone to the forbidden zone of the 100,000 mountains, and at this moment they must be fighting against the 9th-level blood dragon. The dragon fought to death, so Jai Lingqiu would not be able to escape. The Spider Queen extended her legs and began to release a horde of spiders. She decided to be cautious by giving the small spiders the order to go explore the city of Jiang and make sure there were no traces of Jai Lingqiu. Jiang Chen, who had his eyes closed, was inside the ancestral tree with his body surrounded by energy. Zhai Gang and the others arrived at the area and decided to protect him and prevent the horde of beasts from approaching him. The area was filled with beasts. While everyone was distracted, Yingzhan started flying towards them, and upon seeing this, Jiang Wushwang's eyes widened in surprise and confusion. With a worried gaze, he asked why he was injured. Yingzhan's eyes filled with fear. He began to look at them, and with a worried expression asked them to flee, revealing that the Abyss Spider Queen had appeared. Upon hearing this, everyone went into shock. Jiang's body began to release poisonous mist, which spread throughout the area. With a serious expression, Shaoqi extended her hands and using her power began to heal all the wounded warriors. Zhai Gang drew his sword and with a serious gaze explained that Jiang Chen was inside the spiritual tree, so it was impossible to move him to a safe place, making it clear that they had to stand firm and wait for him to complete his breakthrough. Someone created a blue shield. Zhai Gang started observing them and asked them to enter the protection shield to heal their wounds while waiting for support to arrive. The great defense spell had already been reinforced, so they were going to be able to resist a few more minutes. Yingzhan, who was flying, began advancing towards the shield to heal his wounds first, since the Spider Queen was not an opponent they could face. Bai Fang and the others also started walking towards the shield. Lei crossed his arms and, with a curious expression, began to look at his friend and explained that this was not a safe place, suggesting that it was better to leave. Vizi, who was sitting, summoned a small portal, began to observe it, and with a confident expression said that the old saying stated that lucky people had the protection of the sky. He had just done the calculations, and this time it was not a dead-end alley. Vizi took a treasure out of the portal and mentioned that if there was no other option but to fight, then he had no choice but to ask Grandpa Monkey for help. He called upon the magic gourd, giving it the order to come out and assist. Vizi closed his eyes, raised the treasure, and asked Grandpa Monkey for help since they were the treasure began to shine. Lai, who had his arms crossed, started observing it in silence with a curious expression. An eye appeared in the treasure, Grandpa Monkey made it clear that he was no match for the level 8 Spider Queen, but he decided to completely exhaust her strength, asking Vidzi to come with him. Instead of helping them, Grandpa Monkey used his powers, and the bodies of Vidzi and Lai were absorbed by the treasure, leaving them somewhat confused. Kang Ying drew her dagger, and her eyes filled with seriousness. Mu Henkyu closed her eyes and raised her fist to the sky. She was furious knowing that they could not rely on useless people like Lai in busy and critical moments. Jie Qiangyu's eyes began to shine with determination, and she made it clear that she would never abandon Jiang Chen, deciding to use all the treasures she had in the worst-case scenario. Luo Sando clenched her fist, and with a serious expression swore to fight against the beasts until the end. Zhang Wushuang's attention was fixed on them, and his eyes widened in surprise. He let out a sigh. And despite being afraid, he couldn't leave and abandon the girls alone, because if he ran away, he wouldn't be able to boast of having an invincible heart. Jai Zheng clenched his fist, turned to Jiang, and with a sincere expression asked him to wake up quickly. They were not afraid of death, and the only thing they feared was not being able to protect him. Jiang was inside the origin space. With a lost gaze, he began to ponder in silence. He did not expect that after using the mission exemption card for job change, his consciousness would be dragged directly into the origin space. Ruins began to float around him. Jiang came out of his trance and started observing them with a surprised expression. He knew that if he canceled the class change now, he would have to redo the third class change mission. But now that the outside was filled with insects, he wasn't going to have many problems since, after all, they had an average level of 30. He noticed that the class runes were advanced version classes. A system window appeared in front of him. He had used the class change mission exemption card to complete the third class change mission called Thunder Dominator. The evaluation of the third class had been completed, and now the selection of the Thunder System rune was about to begin. Jiang started observing the runes, realizing that thousands of them had already gone extinct, and that those remaining must be related to the Thunder System, and all had a level higher than that of Thunder Lord class. Jiang extended his hand and began to smile. The system completed the selection, revealing that now only 9 runes remained. The rune entered our boy's head, and his unique rank profession Lord of Thunder advanced to God rank God of Thunder. Then a status window appeared in front of our boy. He had obtained new abilities, the first called Punishment of Thunder, which would allow him to conjure a thunder eye in the void capable of attacking the opponent's mind. The second ability was called 3 Zalos and Cataclysms of Thunder. It was a massive area ability. Jiang could cast a punishment of thunders upon his opponents. The third and final ability was called God of Thunder. Jiang would be able to release an eternal domain space 100 meters around him. The domain would eliminate all elements within its area and weaken the target's properties. It also possessed a devouring effect over other domains whose level was lower than Jiang's. Jiang extended his hand toward the system window. He was somewhat surprised to see that they were all powerful abilities. Besides, he remembered that many of the awakened obtained their own domain after making the 6th class change. He touched the system window without knowing how he was going to compare his domain with that of his master and his older sister. Something caught our boy's attention, and when he turned around, he saw that the class runes were starting to shine again. His mind filled with confusion as the thousands of runes that had been extinguished before were shining once more. The ancestral tree appeared in front of him. Jiang began to observe it in silence. He had used the mission exemption card for class change to complete the third class change mission of Master of Divine Creation. The system began to select the runes related to his class, and his divine rank profession Master of Divine Creation became the profession called the beginning of everything at divine rank. He obtained new abilities again, the first one called Supreme Path. After learning this technique, there was a probability of activating simplified mode. All his abilities would have a certain probability of leveling up when used. The second ability was called Evolution to Complexity, an improved version of growth of all things. Jiang had the ability to accelerate the growth and reproduction of all living beings, breaking the limit on production quantity, performing a transformation in both time and quantity for the target living being, being able to accelerate between 50 and 200 times randomly and increase quantity between 2 and 10 times randomly. Jiang clenched his fist, making electrical energy emerge, then extended his hand, causing a root to appear in his palm. Compared to the Thunder God class, his main class was even more incredible. Using the Supreme Path ability, he would be able to learn the techniques of all races just like Ying Zhan, and with the Evolution to Complexity ability, he would be able to accelerate the reproduction of insects. For him, this was like using cheats. Knowing that in the next reproduction cycle, Little Nine would give birth to 10 billion insects, and if probability increased, they could exceed 100 billion. At that moment, a new insect mother appeared. She placed her hand on her chest and introduced herself adorably as Zhao Chan. Seeing this, Jiang was in shock since he had not yet used the Growth of All Things ability nor the Life rank jump, without knowing how she had already transformed into human form. Outside, the Spider Queen began releasing a large number of spiders. She and Little Nine were at the same level, so their number exceeded Jiang's insects. Jiang mentioned that they could rely on insects to protect Jiang. Thus, he gave everyone orders to prepare for battle until death, since stopping the Spider Queen was their top priority. Jiang Wuxiang used the body of the god of war, making his giant 10-armed spirit appear. Jai Junyu shot an arrow into the air and summoned the fire phoenix. Jiang drew his sword and everyone began to fight against the spiders. Little Nine transformed into the 9 miasma wings and with a piercing gaze began to advance towards the Spider Queen. Luo Sando extended her hands and with a determined expression used her powers and summoned several barriers around Jiang. Her eyes began to shine with rage, making it clear that if they approached, they would detonate the divine weapon. The Spider Queen jumped and attacked with a shockwave. With a murderous look, she revealed that they were no match for her. The attack was so powerful that the bodies of Jiang and the others were sent flying backward. No one was able to resist. Luo Sando opened her mouth and started spitting blood. The eyes of Little Nine, who was sitting on Jiang's shoulder, filled with tears and fear. She began to cry, asking him to wake up quickly since the Spider Queen had already killed many of the insects. Jiang opened his eyes and his attention fixed on the Spider Queen. With a smile, he asked Little Nine not to be afraid since her father was already awake. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part,